nothing worse than tarp camping in changing weather conditions. 1 minute it's sunny and the next minute it's pouring down, and your shelter is no longer fit for purpose. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how I set up this tarp shelter and why I think it's perfect no matter what the weather. It was nice and sunny before, and now it's starting to rain. And this is why it's important to have a versatile shelter that you can adapt depending on the elements. So all I'm going to be using for this setup is a DD Hammock's 3x3 tarp. Got a set of guy lines and a set of pegs, and also some cordage. And all I'm going to be using for a bit of structure is a tree. And when you lay your tarp out, like you'll see in a minute, you just want to make sure the corner of the tarp, or where the entrance is going to be, is in line with this tree. So when you're laying your tarp out, just make sure it's upside down first. And then position that corner, as I said before, just in line with the tree. And this is going to be where your entrance is. And then just at the front of the tarp, just peg out each corner. So we've pegged in the front corners. All we're going to do is come forward along the side of the tarp, skip one loop and peg it out. So we're skipping this one and we're pegging what would be the third loop in from the front of the tarp. And then at the back of the tarp, just counting 3 loops from the corner, which should be the centre loop. And you just want to make yourself a little slip knot and pass that through the loop. And this is the bit now where you're going to create the shelter, which is just in time because it's starting to rain a bit heavier. So just taking the middle loop, just bring that over and up towards the tree. And this will start forming a bit of a plough point. And you're going to tie this round the tree just using a taut hitch knot. And then once you put a little bit of tension on this cordage, you'll start to see the shelter taking shape. And then you can just go around now and peg out all the excess loops on this side, and you'll start to see this is now a fully enclosed shelter with a floor, which is a bit of a bonus in this country because unless you brought with you a ground sheet, you're going to be sleeping on the wet floor if it's been raining. But with this, you've already got a floor built in, so you don't need to worry about that. At least you know you're going to be dry and your gear is going to be off the ground as well. Just be careful when you're pegging this out that the floor isn't sticking out beyond the sides here, otherwise if that gets wet the water's going to start to run in. You just make sure it's covering it and then peg it down. Same on the back of the tarp, just pull out this bottom loop, peg that down, and then what I do, just to make sure you've got a little bit more room inside this setup, is you just want to put in a guy line on this second loop up and then peg that out. And just see how much that's pulling out the tarp. I'll just give you a little bit extra room inside. And you can just go around then and just tighten everything up. So this is going to be your entrance, and once you're inside you can just pull that over a bit like a door and just hook the loop under one of the pegs you've already got on the ground, and you're protected then from the wind and the rain. It's really cosy in there, so I'll show you guys inside. So as you can probably guess from the outside, there's not loads of room in here, but there's plenty to be able to lie down in and get all your gear in as well. I think it's a really cosy shelter. It's not claustrophobic at all, so you don't need to worry about feeling like you're confined in a coffin. But definitely enough room to get your head down, get out the elements, be able to get a good night's sleep. And just to be able to have a proper floor without lying in all this forest or having to bring a ground sheet with you, it's a bit of a big win for me. So aside from just having a floor and being fully enclosed, let's show you guys why I think this is the best tarp setup. So we're dealing with bad weather, this shelter is great. It's got this lovely plough point shape to it, which tapers towards the end. So if you position that head into the wind, it's going to deal with that no problem. And then you've got these nice, high, steep, flat sides, which just means the rain and the water are not going to collect, and there's no chance of that sagging. What makes this shelter so versatile, as we all know in this country, 1 minute it can be raining and the next minute it can be glorious sunshine. And you've set up a fully enclosed shelter, which is now like a sauna. So what we want to be able to do is open this up, but still have some structure, some shelter for the shade, and be able to put it back down when it starts raining, nice and easy. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So there's 2 ways of doing this, and both are really simple. All you need to do is unhook the loops from the pegs at the bottom. And the first thing you can do is just flip that back, and you've now still got a little bit of shelter if it does rain, but also somewhere to sit and cool yourself off and still enjoy the sunshine. But the second method is the one I prefer, and it's just where we use this flap to create a little bit of extra shelter You've still got a flooring in there, but you can pull this out using a trekking pole or a branch in next to no time. And if it does rain, again, you've still got a little bit of protection, and you can sit out, make your food, and enjoy the open space. So just make sure you've attached yourself a guide line, find yourself a suitable pole or branch, and we can just stake that down. And look how simple that was. I just think this is a great shelter for changing weather conditions. That took less than 10 seconds to be able to change the setup. I've still got some shelter, or I can flip it back and sit out in the open. Whereas some of the other tarp shelters I've used, once the setup, you need to take most of it down to be able to reconfigure it. Whereas this, didn't need to. All the structure's still there, and I'm good to go if it pours down. I'll just drop that pole and we're ready to go. Let me know down in the comments what you think is the best tarp setup for changing weather conditions, and I might give some of them a go. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.